Hey everybody, this is Dr. Diane talking about Lyme and mold and toxins and a ton of other things on this channel. In this video, we're going to talk about when you have resultant brain fog, memory loss, chronic fatigue from things like Lyme and mold, and feel like you've tried everything, and are you going to get these functions back, right? How do you get your brain function back? How do you stop being fatigued? Now, this is a huge question because it comes down to there is a uniqueness person to person as far as figuring out what the root causes are. So the exacts are going to be varied, but there's some overarching principles we can talk about here. So one thing for sure is that if you are living in a moldy house and you are reacting to mold and mold part of the root cause, you gotta be in a safe place. And I'm telling you, so many people feel like they've gotten inspectors and remediators in and they feel like, oh, my place is fine. I cannot tell you how many people I have talked to and I've worked with that have had to go through inspector after inspector after inspector, remediator after remediator after remediator before it's finally totally gone. And many times they are told that their house is fine by the inspectors, by the remediators, and it's not. So you got to get second opinions. You got to get third opinions. And I get that this is so costly. And I don't want to sugarcoat this. I want to give it to you straight around. This is a key component that can be standing you back from getting well. So a lot of people resist this information because of the fact that it's can be so costly and it can be so emotionally and mentally taxing to think about moving and cleaning and remediating and all these things. But you got to realize that this can be the key component of why mold continues to remain in your body, in your sinuses, in your brain, these sorts of things. So if you're finding that you're not getting better, the chances that you're still living in a moldy place are really high. Now, that being said, once you're in a mold-free place and you're doing the normal detoxification things, there's a few different things you want to keep in mind. When we're detoxifying, we always want to rebuild at the same time. So we don't want to just get rid of the bad, but we want to rebuild the good. So making sure you're doing things like truly getting your adrenals back online and really working with a functional doc that understands what that means. So like the adrenal hormones, for example, cortisol and DHEA, are designed to give us energy. Cortisol in too high amounts is stress hormone, but too low amounts is actually low energy, right? Can contribute to chronic fatigue. DHEA is another adrenal hormone. It gives us energy. It's a precursor to testosterone, so it helps us build muscle. And classically, when these are measured, they're not interpreted correctly. So for most women, they do best if they're DHEAS. The storage form of DHEA is called DHEAS. S stands for sulfate. So when their DHEAS is measured, most women feel best when their levels are between 200 and 300, men between 300 and 400. Most people don't interpret the test that way. Cortisol, if you're doing an AM serum cortisol, blood cortisol, and you're doing it within the first hour or two of waking up, most people do best if their cortisol is at the higher end of the range. We want a surge of cortisol in the morning. So most people feel best if their morning cortisol is 16, 17, 18, 19. They're told they're normal if they have an 8, 9, or 10. So oftentimes people will think well, yeah, I got my adrenals measured and they're fine. The same thing we see with thyroid, the same thing we see with micronutrients. So we really want to make sure that we are doing the things for fatigue to really build the body up and not just focus on the detoxification. And as far as memory, nutrients such as choline, such as ginkgo, these are nutrients that have been shown to really help, especially a type of choline called alpha GPC, been really shown to help with brain health. Now, one of the things that we see with this is that in order for our brain to work well, we got to get the toxins out. So we can give things that help to restore neurological function, but if we're not getting toxins out, that can be a huge problem. So alpha lipoic acid is something that really helps to detox the brain well. So usually if somebody has mycotoxins in their brain, we got to get them on ALA as part of the treatment to actually bind the toxins in the brain. It crosses the blood-brain barrier really easily and get the toxins out. And of course the sinuses, because we can have mold colonize the sinuses, and that causes a wide variety of problems. And a lot of times people will be given, they'll do sinus tests. Sometimes they have something called mark-ons, which is a form of a very say, bad form of staph that colonizes the sinus cavity way far back in the sinuses, and they can have fungus in there. And most commonly, people are given nystatin, or they're given bag spray for Marcons, pharmaceuticals, and they can work. But one of the problems I see is they don't always work. In fact, unfortunately, I see a lot of times they don't work. And one of the problems is that these nasal sprays don't oftentimes reach very well the very back end of our sinuses. They don't necessarily get distributed in the way that is really beneficial. And I've seen a lot better results when people start nebulizing. Nebulizers are, for those of you that don't know what they are, they're used a lot in asthmatics, and they're basically things that turn medicine into steam, and we breathe the steam in. And so when we use certain things, whether natural or pharmaceutical, and we put them in a nebulizer, when we breathe them in, then that allows them to disseminate to the back of our sinuses, and oftentimes can get to some of those hidden spores, right? Those fungal spores, or to some of the other infections that can be colonizing the sinus cavity. So that's a really good clinical trick that I've learned. Of course, we can react to everything. Of course, make sure you're always, talking to your doctor about any of this, to make sure that you have somebody overseeing your case. This is, always just education, because I'm not working one-on-one with you guys, but just, have this as your information that you want to talk to your doctor about these sorts of things. And that's it for that question. Thank you for submitting that. Please do continue to submit questions, you guys. Please subscribe to this channel if this has been valuable. And please don't keep me a secret. Please tell your friends and family so I can spread this information around as it's so needed. All right. Thank you and take care. See you next time.